Thank you very much, and welcome to our Facebook friends also. And I'm very honored to be here with my colleagues presenting on this topic. So there's actually a new documentary that has come out, The History of After School. And actually one of the stars is our own Ellen Gannett in that documentary. And it traces the history of the world of after school, and including both the program experience and the workforce. And of course, over time, and obviously NIOST has a huge part in building that history. The original School Age Care project and the work of Mickey Seligson was instrumental in the history of after school time. And it has long been an interest of NIOST to understand, to research, to look at the workforce of the out-of-school time field. And so it made sense for us to be looking at this as something that is important and primary interest to NIOST. So we're going to be sharing what Donna introduced in terms of data about our workforce study and other complexities of the workforce of out-of-school time. But I'd like to start with just telling a little bit about and providing some background in general workforce, what we know and what's trending now. And one of the things that you can see in this chart right here is looking at the change in median age of workers over time. And so that first chart on the left is a census from 1901. And what you can see, the median age of workers at that time was around 23 years of age. You can see how much is collected down at the bottom, age-wise. And interestingly enough, the blue and the red are gender. So you have, within genders, about the same percent of age workers. And as you move forward on the right there, we come to the year 2001, and where the median age now has increased to 35 years. And you can see the difference in that chart as it starts to squeeze in, and the age of older workers. There's an increase in older workers in the workforce. And here we're to 2101, where the median age would be about 45 years. So this could be good news. This could be more challenging news. But it certainly has implications for every employment field, and certainly also true for the after-school employment field. Interestingly enough, I was at a visit to an after-school program just recently, and I was observing some second graders, and I was feeling a little cold in the room, because it was a little cold. And so I'm sure I was shaking visibly a little bit. And so one of the girls came up to me and she said, "You look cold." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't have my sweater, my jacket on, etc." And then she said, "No," I said, "You look old." And I said, I'm thinking of this research, and I said, wait till you see me in 10 years. I'll still be here. So even our workforce, out of school time is aging. So a little bit about what are these implications of longevity in the workforce. Interesting statistic, back in the years 64 to 1975, on average workers held about 11.7 jobs. And when I say jobs, I don't mean different employment, but job switches. So in a lot of ways this makes sense, because you might have started in the mailroom and then you moved up to some sort of coordinating position. You kept working your way up, but you stayed in that same industry. You had different jobs, but you were in the same organization, in the same industry. And one of the trends now is that people are more likely to career shift, where individuals actually change organizations, change fields, not organizations, but fields and industries. And this has implications for employment fields, including out-of-school time employment. It puts stress on employers. You lose people with institutional knowledge. You lose people who have built up a set of skills and then go to a completely different career or career field. Organizations which have support mobility within their organization, so within their field, may in fact have an opportunity to hang on to workers longer. And this is something that we're going to be talking about in our presentation. And we're going to refer to those people that represent that attrition as leavers. When we look at career and employment data across different careers, two of the things that we see as reasons that people suggest that they stay in employment and stay in a job is job satisfaction. And that's completely obvious and makes sense. That workers with higher job satisfaction are more likely to stay. The other predictor is an inclination towards skill development. So the opportunity to build a certain set of skills or to be able to pursue skill development that you're interested in. So these rise up in general employment and career field data as two things that are important for workers to stay. I'm going to turn it over now to my colleague, Betsy Starr, and let her take you into a little bit more specific data about the workforce in out-of-school time.
Great. So though we at NIAST think about OST all day long, we realize that might not be the case for all of you, and you might not even know what OST is. So I'm just going to give a quick 101 on OST and kind of start at the beginning. So when we say OST, we're talking about out of school time, and often people talk about after school and use that term, so that's one that we're really familiar with and kind of use interchangeably. So it's kind of that time when kids aren't in school and they're not at home with family. You know, there's other, formal programs. What are they doing? So after school is pretty big. Across the country, over 10 million kids are enrolled in formal after-school programs, with plenty more waiting for slots. And we love after school at NIAST for a lot of reasons, and some of them are because of the impact it can have on children and youth. So we know that kids who attend after school improve school attendance and grades and behavior, and they're developing social emotional skills, among many other reasons to love after school. So I won't go into a lot of detail about all the glories of after school, but just trust us that it is a great thing, and so we want to help the field. So after school is wonderful and OST is wonderful, but it's also a bit complicated. So it's made up of several different sectors that each have their own histories and funding streams and perspectives, so that make it a little bit tricky. So it's made up of school-age care, which is early childhood programs that may take in some school-age kids during after-school hours. It's made up of traditional after-school, school-based programs that might be more academic in focus and offer other enrichment, and then also youth development programs that are typically community-based programs for older youth. But we see them as all kind of under one umbrella, but it does make it a little bit tricky. And certainly there's others that I haven't even mentioned if you start thinking about library programs and museums and summer camps, and the list goes on. So it's a little bit tricky, and it's a little bit tricky to capture the workforce. So we really like to use a broad definition of the workforce, and think of, and this is one that's been used in the field, that the workforce is made up of individuals who work with or on behalf of youth to facilitate their personal, social, and educational development and enable them to gain a voice, influence, and place in society as they make the transition from dependence to independence. So that is a pretty lofty goal, and indeed the workforce is really important in this field. So they're really a key to quality. So we know that the quality of the staff impacts the quality of the programs, and that in turn impacts the positive youth outcomes that we want to see. So they're really crucial to those youth outcomes. So what do we know about this workforce? We do know some things. So in 2005, there was a pretty large-scale survey that was done of the workforce. So that's where most of this is from. So we know that the workforce is pretty well educated. About half have a bachelor's degree or higher, and that's actually been shown in some more recent surveys as well. So that seems to be pretty standard. It's also seems to be made up of both young and older workers. So maybe people who right out of college or kind of are entering the workforce start in the field, and then a bunch of people leave in their 30s and 40s and maybe go back a little bit later. So there is sort of an older pool too. Just to note about the education and that and sort of with the older and younger workforce too, that there may be some things that are a little bit more complicated going on. It may be that there's almost two workforces, one that might be more long-term and maybe has higher degrees of education, and then maybe another sort of parallel workforce that is more temporary, maybe without as much formal education. So these are just kind of things that are out there. This workforce is very enthusiastic about their work, for sure. And we'll hear that when Katie and Lizette present some of our data from our survey, that there is a lot of passion. People love what they do. And in this 2005 survey, over 80% said that they were satisfied or very satisfied with their job. They do like it. And this is in spite of some challenges. So some of the challenges that are prevalent in the field is a turnover rate of up to 40%. So that's I think pretty high. And then there's also the average pay in 2005 was $10 an hour. So that, again, that was in 2005, so there's some adjustments to be made. We don't have more recent data, but it's sort of minimum wage-y kind of pay that we're talking about. So in fact, in this study in 2005, the number one reason that people cited influencing their decision to leave the field was pay. And that was in spite of other factors like job satisfaction and whatever. So, it can have a really big impact, and pay also may influence who can afford to work in the field and who can stay. So we're not going to really get into that today, but there are implications for equity and diversity to think about there. And so turnover has a lot of costs for the program. So definitely, as Georgia kind of alluded to, there are monetary costs for any organization and program when there is turnover, and OST is not a particularly well-endowed field. So this is costly in programs with tight budgets. That has an impact when there is turnover like that. And there's also non-monetary costs with turnover for children and youth. So this is really about relationships for kids, and there's been a lot of research about the importance of a caring adult and the impact that can have. And so when those caring adults leave for whatever reason, that can be really disruptive. And there's been some recent research kind of looking into what that impact might be. So we, particularly in this field, feel like longevity is a big deal. We want to try to get people to stay. And so, so this data is all really kind of out of date. It's from 2005. So since then, there has not been a large-scale workforce survey. So we don't have a really good picture of, what does the field look like now. But since then, there's been a lot going on. So NIOST has been, working diligently all this time to support the workforce, both with trainings to improve quality of trainings, and professional development, in terms of helping with system building for professional development systems with cities and states, so that there's really strong infrastructure to support the workforce, and looking into other workforce issues. So, and we have not been alone. So across the field, all these efforts have been ongoing, and so there has been a lot of attention to how can we support the workforce. So, we don't really know what that impact has been. The National After-School Association did do a survey in 2013. They collected a bunch of data, and it seemed to point to some really positive things, that maybe people are staying in the field longer. And that was, a study of largely the director levels. So, maybe those are the people who are staying in the field longer, but it's encouraging that there is opportunity to stay in the field longer. So this is kind of encouraging. I'll give a shout out to some of our colleagues in Madison, Wisconsin, who have been doing their own kind of local survey of the workforce, and have really found that it's wages and this kind of turnover rates are the biggest barrier to access for kids to be able to access programs. So that is very intriguing, and really points to the need to support this workforce in maybe some very specific ways. And other studies have been done that are kind of pointing to the importance of training and coaching and what kind of impact that can have on stabilizing the workforce. So our goal is really to update this data. I mean, the big dream is to do a large-scale survey so we can get a big picture of what's going on in the country as far as this workforce. We're going to start small, And so we collected some pilot data, and some of our questions that we wanted to look at are really around that longevity piece. How do you keep people in the field? So what motivates someone to enter this field in the first place? And how do people come to the fields? And then what might cause them to stay or to leave? And what are some of those factors that might influence them? So with that being said, I'm going to pass it on to my colleagues. I think Lizette is up next to talk about our survey that we did.
Okay, so like Betsy said, we took on a small pilot survey. And in doing this, we designed the survey around the voices from the field that we've been hearing, around the historic work of NIAST and our training department. And we also want to particularly acknowledge our colleague Michael Morrow, who set out on doing some of this work about 20 years ago now. And he really helped our conceptualization around lifers, so folks who planned to stay in the field for another 10 years, and leavers, so these are the people who are in and out for about 1 to 2 years. So we set out on a small pilot study with the intention to do this bigger study eventually, and this was a convenience sample and it was a snowball sample. So what that means is we designed the survey, we reached out to our networks and we said please share with your networks, and we gave folks about 2 to 3 weeks to get back to us. And there was a lot of interest, so we were really excited to see that. So the data that you're going to see, folks responded to that question. Between 275 and 300 folks responded to each question. There might be a couple differences in that. And we designed our research questions, like Betsy said, around these 3 areas. What are your current experiences? What's your perception of the field? And how did you decide to stay or go? We also, because this was a pilot, we designed some open-ended questions. We wanted to see, we have our ideas of what's going on, but if we're missing anything, or if we want kind of more rich information, we gave people the opportunity to respond to open-ended questions. So what did you find most satisfying about working in OST? What's challenging for you? What influences you particularly to stay or leave? And again, how did you get here? So in our survey, the average age is about 40 years old. We have a 76% white sample, 83% are female, highly educated, 41% have a bachelor's, 32% had a master's, and a pretty even spread of urbanicity. Suburban, 30% suburban, 40% medium or large urban, and 19% rural. In terms of work experience, we had folks who were in the field for about 10 years, give or take 10 years. 70% of our folks were working full-time, 30% working part-time. 21% worked more than one out-of-school-time job. 38% worked more than one other job, and 70% did unpaid work, which contributes to their job. So by that we mean if you are preparing for your work with kids in the afternoon, if you're a director, you maybe have a 40-hour-a-week job, but you need to go to a community meeting on the weekend. So that number was really staggering for us. And this kind of is what we would consider lifers. 10 years in the field, mostly directors and managers, so folks who are staying. And then we had 15% who are frontline staff and 10% who are administrators and trainers. And we're anticipating that kind of smaller chunk, those are more of our part-time folks. So we asked about characteristics that might influence a worker to stay in the OST field. So we asked folks, how true do you think each of the following statements are? So you can see some of these indicators. Our higher indicators are motivated by children, working with kids and youth, the opportunity to give back, wanting to do challenging work. Somewhat lower are professional development, flexibility, and you can see at the bottom it's just a little bit true that the field provides benefits, fair pay, opportunity for promotion. So then out of this whole list of reasons that you would stay, we asked for them to tell us what would be the most important to you in staying. And the top two were the opportunity to work with kids and youth. and the opportunity to do challenging and exciting work. So we see kind of a passionate workforce here. And our qualitative data will shed a little bit more light on these findings.
Hi, so I'm going to talk about the qualitative data here. And the findings from the qualitative data in general in this study mirrored what the quantitative data were, which doesn't always happen, as we know in research. But we asked the question about, what do you find, in an open-ended way, what do you find most satisfying about working in the out-of-school time field? And what we heard over and over again was that it's about relationships. And in particular, it's about long-term relationships with young children and older children. So, for example, one person said, I love the students. I have such a great relationship with them. They are the reason I come to work. Another said, I enjoy watching the children grow and develop not only over 9 months, but over the course of 6 years or more, knowing that the program had a hand in developing each child. So again, it's about meaningful relationships, and it's about having them over time, which makes it different than working in schools, for example. Another big source of satisfaction is helping people and being part of a larger mission to improve the lives of youth and children. So we heard things like, we have an impact on children and families' lives in so many different ways: physical, mental, emotional, etc. For some people, there was a social justice component to this work, so that they felt particularly good because they worked with kids that they considered to be out at risk, or working with underserved communities. Other themes that came up, but to a lesser extent, was watching the children grow and discover new things. So we heard, for example, the most satisfying moments are the moments when children learn something new or truly appreciate a teacher. Seeing the look on a first grader's face when she first figures out how to make an origami flower or finds the solution to a problem, it just lights up the room. We also heard about opportunities for what we call creative freedom. That is, the opportunity to be creative and autonomous in the work that they do, and what they teach the kids and how they teach the kids. And that they felt like this was more flexible than it would be in a traditional school setting. So the quote was, I like the nimbleness of this field as it allows you to be responsive to current trends in the education and in the world in general, and it allows you to respond to various needs as they come up. I like the opportunity to be creative and encourage creativity in students, teaching social emotional skills. I often describe the difference of out-of-school time versus classroom teaching as teaching kids how to be people, not just teaching academics. And then finally, they talked about not only building relationships with the children, but building them with the families, and really appreciating the opportunity to be part of the kids' lives and their families in general. We make a difference in kids' lives individually and also as a family unit. We build relationships, make memories, have fun, learn, and definitely make a difference in so many ways. So those are the things that people like about working in the out-of-school time field. But the out-of-field also has challenges. So when we asked them about what the challenges were, not surprisingly, given what you've heard about past studies and so forth, what they said was that it's the pay and the need for livable wages. And we think that there may be some difference between, again, Betsy talked about two different workforces, the frontline folks and the people who are more in director and higher level jobs that make some more money. But we heard from people, when they were talking about the need for livable wages, they said things like, the pay is not conducive to what we do every day, nor does it cover living expenses. And the hours overall give you time to do other things, but you have to live paycheck to paycheck, which is stressful. One said, I come from a working class background, so anything I do in the out-of-school time field is in addition to other work in school. Right now, I'm in full-time in grad school and working 2 jobs, and out-of-school time work is in addition to that. It's really stressful. And I can only imagine. Yeah. People are cobbling together different jobs. Related to the low pay is staff turnover and the difficulty of finding qualified staff who will stay, which can lead to chronic understaffing and or transient untrained staff, said one person. A challenge is finding qualified staff members. Many good people can't exist on half a day of pay, because oftentimes the number of hours that they're able to offer is quite limited. A director said, the biggest challenge is staff retention. The pay isn't comparable to everything you have to do for this job. This is a part-time job with full-time commitments, but we don't compensate for that. There were also themes about job stress, feeling overloaded, burnout, and feeling like there's a poor work-life balance. So the quote was, the hours, expectations, and the workload are completely unrealistic and always changing, with ever-growing expectations, rules, and regulations. You just can't keep up unless you're working 70 hours a week or in a larger and well-supported program. Another said it's physically, mentally, and emotionally draining. So some respondents commented on the lack of respect for the field as a whole, and they felt like they were sort of a stepchild or something, to use sort of an old analogy. After-school programs are not respected by other institutions like the school system, the city, or the state. They say they are, but actions speak louder than words. I'm tired of fighting to be heard. After-school programs are an afterthought. Another theme was that they have a lot of challenging behaviors to work with in working with the kids, and they sometimes feel like they don't have the support that they need or the training that they need to deal with those. So one person said, we get little to no support for children who are needing more support than what a typical child care can offer. Another said, it's challenging managing kids who have already spent the entire day behaving and now they're letting loose. They're tired and cranky, or they're wild and crazy.
So in our next section, we asked about what's available in the out-of-school time field. And there are two components to this question. So we said to our respondents, people leave their jobs for a variety of reasons. And from the following list, please indicate if each reason is important to you and if it's available in out-of-school time, right? So if someone has the ability to have challenging work in their field and they find it in their field, that might be a reason that they stay, right? But if they value challenging work and they don't feel challenged in their field, they might leave, right? So this was the list, which ranges from level of pay, opportunity for advancement, level of challenge, opportunity for coaching and feedback. And from this list, everyone endorsed each one of these as being important between 88 and 98%. So all of these things were really important to everyone, except for physical requirements of the job. So we kind of dropped that one out.
It's a lot of physical. I'm
Yeah.
surprised some people didn't.
So you can see here, these are kind of the top indicators, and you see a passion for the field, the value for youth, for their work environment, etc. This is what they feel is available to them. So this might be a reason that you stay. We can also see how professional development, coaching, and recognition are becoming more available, but we still have a little way to go. From this list, there were some lower options, and this is what we consider what's not really available in the field, and these speak to structural issues. So benefits, opportunity for advancement, fair pay, and financial stability, which is part of what you heard from Kate.
So in asking people about why they might want to leave the out-of-school time field, a lot of the reasons that they gave overlap with the challenges. So the number one reason, and no big surprise, was about money. And many respondents indicated that they felt conflicted about this. So they either felt that they needed to leave sometimes, but they didn't always want to do that. So they said things like, I'm seriously considering leaving within 6 to 18 months to get a job with insurance and benefits. I have a PhD and make $36,000 a year. Another said, I'd like to stay to be with kids and be that person in their lives that they know will be there, but I will probably leave to find a better paying job. And another said, the reality is most out-of-school time jobs do not pay a sustainable wage. Currently, the energy I get from working in the out-of-school time field is worth the low pay, but this may not be feasible if I decide to have children of my own. Another theme that came up was the lack of career development and advancement, which Lizette has just been talking about. And this has to do with both the opportunity to have some training in things that they wanted to learn and to feel challenged, but also some upward mobility and opportunities for promotions. A third reason that they said that they might want to leave or that they consider leaving is lack of recognition and support, which we talked about earlier. One person said, lack of recognition as a profession is one of the reasons people come and go. Out of school time is like a temporary step toward a more rewarding position. Another said, it would be nice to feel valued by school staff, not treated as second-class teachers or just babysitters. So although the field has many challenges and there are people who leave, there are obviously a lot of people who decide to stay. And we were interested in knowing more about what is it that compels people to want to stay in the field. And there was a lot of overlap in this area with job satisfaction and what are the areas that they found most satisfying. So the number one reason, again, was enjoying working with children. And they get a lot back from the children. They feel like they're making a difference in their lives, and they genuinely care about the children that they're working with. So some sample quotes were, "I have the best job. I get paid to play with children. The joy of seeing all those youth smiling faces and bombarding their brains with knowledge to grow keeps me in my job. I choose to stay because it's a job I love going to and the kids make me happy. I hear a lot of people complain about their jobs and say they don't like going to work. I feel like it's the opposite for me." So again, that passion. "I'm able to be part of the kids' lives and their families daily. I will cherish this for the rest of my life. Not only do I have my own family, but other families I work with say that I'm part of theirs. They come back and invite me to graduations and other family celebrations. That's a tremendous feeling." They also feel a strong commitment to the mission, as we talked about, that they feel like they're making a difference and they feel really proud of the fact that they're creating a positive difference not only for families but also for the community in general. "I feel undervalued and underpaid, but I love what I do and the opportunity to help at-risk children. Why I stay is that I believe in the value and the vital importance of the role that out-of-school time programs play in the lives of developing school-agers. It's a service as critical as school, so every year we choose to stay." Other secondary themes were appreciation for coworkers and the field in general, and feeling like they like the energy there. One said, "I just love the drive and energy in the field." Another said, "I love the people who are attracted to this field. I've made so many lasting friendships, and that counts in the quality and value of my own life." And finally, personal satisfaction was a big reason. "I was a college student with no plan in working in the out-of-school time field helped me discover my passion." Another said, "I'm getting older now, so the long days are taking a toll, but I stay because I have the passion. Passion doesn't get old."
So, sort of the segue between thinking about what folks have said about frustrations in the field. You know, we've heard that their pay rates, lack of ability to gain recognition, the value of the field, etc. I mean, this isn't just unique to out-of-school time. In fact, for all of us, don't we know folks that are either experiencing that in related fields or in similar fields, I would say. So this isn't just only about out-of-school time. And the same with reasons to stay in the field. Many folks find that the importance of professional development, being able to learn skills, grow in one's job, have access to strong relationships, that also helps give one satisfaction. So one of the things we want to think about more is in professional development is this link between the value of professional development. And so in that, one person said in response to our survey, "I love working in youth and mission-driven work. At the same time, I'm extremely transparent about my own professional development and self-interest. So one of the main reasons I'm in this role is that it allows me to be a better professional than I was previously, and as long as the work remains challenging, I continue to improve and hone my professional skills, and there are opportunities for advancement. I'll stay in this field as long as I can." And then in parallel with that, so growing one's own skills, but then also being able to help others, one respondent said, "I've stayed in the field for over 40 years because I believed I made a difference in the lives of young children and families and found the professionalizing of the field to be both a worthy challenge and exciting opportunity." So I love that. You hear the passion in that work. And so that brings us a little to our own passion here at NIOST, because you've heard a lot about how we do training at NIOST and have been doing professional development for decades now. And I certainly want to do another shout out to Ellen Gannett, who's here in the audience, because a lot of the professional development ideas came from her early work, as well as from Katie, who is back here working on standards. So this chart represents sort of the expansion of the work. It's not single decade by decade, but each decade we're adding more and more and more to this big body of training that we're doing. And so in the beginning, in the 90s, we were developing standards for the field, working on best practices, And in those standards, we found things that were important about sort of voice and choice, about the preparation of staff, about the importance of relationships. That's always been sort of a key part of our work. Then as time went on, once the standards were adopted, there was lots of work to be done around management, supervision, leadership. I mean, the same things you find in many, many fields, but even more so because it's a little bit unique to our field because you have to know sort of the ages and stages of youth. So that's also been a big part to help part-time staff know that when they come into the field, then also grow your developer, your directors and your supervisors. So then a big switch sort of came about in the 2010s, 2000s, where the No Child Left Behind, and so there was a big push, but the field had expanded a lot, and so more money was pouring into the field. So with that, there was sort of more pressure from funders who were looking for accountability. And so NIOST was one of the many that developed tools to help measure quality, and quality's been a big driver of our work ever since, that both drives the training and both drives the support of the field. And so with that, we have tools that help programs do observations and trainings to measure their quality. But on the other hand, we also believe that so much of what the value of out-of-school time is all about relationships. And so we've always been big on social emotional learning and always been big on ideas like project-based learning, because it's all very experiential. So then lately, what's happening in training is we are moving more towards that lens of really recognizing that we have to more carefully meet people where they are. And so whether it's dual language learners, folks experiencing trauma, opportunities for being more helpful for youth who have specific issues such as autism, we're really working very hard to sort of expand the training that's available for everyone, because we really believe in quality for all. So what this is in linking sort of what we're doing in professional development and sort of our takeaways about our survey, sort of where does this leave us? So we're really thinking about how so many folks responded to the importance of relationships, both relationships with the children and youth and families and going beyond to communities, but also in how they're helping one another, staff develop, and directors take on that role of mentoring and coaching. And clearly, as you heard from so many of the quotes, there's so much passion expressed in this field. So we feel it, they feel it, that's what keeps us all here. But then we've got those bigger, ongoing, systemic issues, not unique to our field, but that are those, sort of bigger issues that are harder for us to tackle around pay, benefits, value of the field. So what are our next steps? More research, and we're actually very excited about the opportunity to partner with other national organizations in doing our national study. So that's something that we're working hard on and hope to really reach a broad audience, because this is this sort of thorny piece of how do you reach the part-time workers and as well as the directors. I mean, we knew this from sort of our thinking in the study when we sent it out by email, and we thought, well, we're going to do better than that 2005 study, which had so many directors at manager level. But when it came back, we had probably even more managers and directors. But then when you think about it, our study goes out by email. It goes to us that are interested as us in an organization. And even if we ask them to pass it along, the frontline staff isn't sitting around with computers. So it's very hard to reach that frontline staff. So that's one of the big questions of how are we actually going to get out to our broader audience. And then, let's see, we also wanted to invite you to ask about this study and say what resonates with you and any ideas you have for us about where we can go with our study, and anything that you think about. Were there any surprises in this that you heard? Anything that came to light in your minds that struck you as interesting?
Well, we look forward to what happens with the study. Thank you so much for kicking off the seminar. To Georgia, who's headed up, Kathy, Katie, Lizette, Betsy, thank you, and Ellen, thank you so much. Thanks for coming out today.